A number of years ago, I was working in an executive role at an organization, and we had a building close to downtown LA, and we got a call one night that it burned down.
Gosh.
With everything that we owned in it. My grounding was, this is going to destroy us.
We all know what it's like to feel stuck in circumstances, relationships, situations. And what I've noticed for myself and so many people is that the stuckness isn't out here. The stuckness is in here. Most people don't wake up in the morning and decide to give away their power. It happens gradually through stories, through assumptions, through imagination. What if the biggest limitation that you face in life isn't your circumstances? What if it's the story you're living inside of?
We all have times in our lives where we feel disempowered. We've been hurt, and we've had things happen that weren't really of our choosing. This is not about whether or not you have been hurt. We all have. It's really about if we're using that hurt as a lens for how we see the rest of our lives.
Think about it. You get a diagnosis, you get a text, a phone call, you read something in the paper, and immediately a story appears. We are meaning-making machines. The question isn't whether or not the story is going to appear. The question is whether we're aware that we're living inside one that we created. I was talking to my colleague Luke Crowley about disempowerment, and it's amazing how quickly our minds decide how situations are going to end.
I remember facing that challenge, and it was my job to run the insurance process and navigate this mess.
Oh my gosh.
And my grounding was, this is going to destroy us. This is going to impact my marriage. Like, I'm not going to have time. Like, everything was leading to, how bad is this going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a conversation with someone who sits in a mentor role in my life, and he was going, yeah, that's really tough, Luke. Sounds really difficult. What if it goes better than you think? And Jean Marie, I wanted to like hit it. I wanted to punch him just a little bit because I'm like, you don't understand. Where's your compassion? But it still started something in me to go, hang on, what if this does go better than I think? And sure enough, a few months later and a big insurance process later, we ended financially in a better position. We got a better location than we had before. We got better equipment than we had before. And for all of us as a team, myself included, it caused me to go, hang on, where am I automatically committed to a very disempowered story rather than what could be here?
What I loved about Luke's story wasn't that everything worked out. What I loved about it was his awareness of what was unfolding so that in the midst of it, he could change the story. One of the quickest ways to solidify and reinforce these stories is through blame.
I know when I feel disempowered, I look for blame. That's one of the first places I can find it in my own story, like my complaints and my blaming. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. It's a great opportunity to hit the pause button.
Yeah, a great notice. Where's the narrative in me constantly about how wrong they are?
Mm-hmm.
I think of conversations on my couch with my wife around people that we know or communities that we're in.
Yeah.
When we start to notice, okay, this whole conversation is like anchored in frustration and it's all about everything that everyone else has done wrong. None of it is looking internally. Normally a good place to start to go, hang on, we're probably connected to some pretty disempowered language here. And if we stay there, we're going to stay there.
Sometimes blame sounds really obvious. And sometimes it sounds completely reasonable.
I notice it coming up in clients when it's almost like you hit repeat on the track on Spotify or on Apple Music, and it's just over and over and over. This is how this boss is. This is how my coworkers are. And because they are that way, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I think that first sign is noticing where there's maybe a repeat story of because this happened or because person A did this, this is what that is going to mean automatically, without a shadow of a doubt for me.
When you hear yourself saying those things, it's a great opportunity to pause and check in and wonder, is that true? Is that 100% true? What could I see if I was willing to look through a different lens?
One of the things we are listening for as coaches all the time is a need in someone to be right about something. I was positive, I was right in how that building situation with our company was going to go.
Yeah.
And so the willingness and the courage to step out and enter an empowered stance was really difficult because it risked me being wrong about that.
Now, look at the same pattern from a different angle. Jose Rodriguez is the founder of Rescue a Generation, and his journey into powerlessness was a little quieter, maybe more subtle. And it all began with him refusing to own his greatness, his capacity, what was possible.
I've always been a really gifted, talented, smart person, but I didn't allow myself to feel that or be that for so long. Because I adopted the thought that I was this, I'll just say it bluntly how I adopted it, but I'm a dumb hood kid. Like that was actually the nature of who I am, who I'm gonna be the rest of my life. Some of those circumstances were absolutely true. And yet what I found early on in survival is that if I played the smart, talented, gifted card, it separates me from the rest of the crowd, and that doesn't look good then.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather let's play this down so I can appease everybody else and I can feel normal at some level. What I didn't realize though, doing that at such an early age, it became the mantra that I lived by. I remember in college studying theology and theological conversations, opting out of it because I'm choosing not to go there mentally because I'd rather play the dumb hood kid card. I've had friends literally, we were at a conference one year and one friend was like, bro, you're not a dumb hood kid no more. I feel like I'm still having moments where I have to then re-let it go again.
Luke's story began with a crisis. Jose's story began with an identity, a circumstance. And both stories, they created meaning, just the way our mind does. And that meaning became identities. And identities roll out into futures, into certainties that we live into. And while they may protect us in the short term, in the long term, they become limitations.
Maybe another way to think about it is instead of, why is this happening to me? How am I participating in what's happening?
The purpose is not to judge the stories. It's simply to notice them. Here's something to try this week. Listen for stories, yours and other people's, and listen for phrases that sound like, I can't, they won't let me, this is just how I am, it is what it is. And then ask yourself, is that 100% true? And then the next question, what story, what certainty have I stopped questioning about myself?
Awareness isn't the end game. It's not the end of the process. It's the beginning of a choice.
Next, we'll explore why capable people can still feel powerless. Subscribe now to stay with the series.